You're standing there, aren't you? Looking at her, looking at the woman you love, the woman you pursue, the woman you try so desperately to make happy. You give her everything. Your time, your attention, your resources. You bend over backwards to meet her needs, to anticipate her desires, to fill that void you see in her eyes. And yet, there it is, that familiar sense of dissatisfaction, that subtle, gnawing unfulfillment. It's always there, lingering, no matter what you do. It's a ghost in the room, a shadow on her smile. And you're left confused, frustrated, wondering what more you could possibly give. What deeper truth are you missing? What if I told you that the reason you can never truly fulfill a woman, the reason that emptiness seems to persist no matter how much you pour into her, was brilliantly, terrifyingly, laid bare by one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, Abraham Maslow. Not the Maslow of the textbook, not the simplified Maslow of self-help gurus. The dark Maslow. The one who, when you strip away the idealism and apply his observations to the raw, unfiltered truth of gender dynamics, reveals a reality so uncomfortable, so counter to everything you've been taught, that most men will never dare to look it in the eye. Maslow, he gave us the hierarchy of needs, a pyramid, a grand ascent from the base, the primal, the fundamental, all the way to the apex. Self-actualization. The full realization of one's potential, the becoming of one's true self. You know the levels, don't you? Physiological needs at the bottom: food, water, shelter. Then safety, security, stability. Then belonging and love, connection, intimacy. After that, esteem needs achievement, respect from others, self-respect. And finally, the pinnacle, self-actualization. The drive to become everything one is capable of becoming. But here's where the blue pill narrative, the societal illusion, stops. It tells you that everyone is striving for self-actualization, that it's the ultimate goal for all of humanity. It tells you that if you just provide enough, if you just love enough, if you just validate enough, that a woman will ascend this pyramid and achieve that glorious state of inner peace and fulfillment. It's the grand lie, isn't it? The one that keeps you chasing, endlessly, pointlessly, like a dog chasing its own tail. Because Maslow's dark truth, the truth that society refuses to utter out loud, the truth that men are punished for even perceiving, is that for most women, the very architecture of their psychological being, their fundamental drives, their deeply ingrained biological imperatives, are not designed for self-actualization in the way a man understands it. They are designed for something else entirely, something far more ancient, far more primal, and far more focused on the lower levels of that very hierarchy. Think about it. Maslow's hierarchy is often presented as a ladder. You climb it, you reach the top, you achieve. But what if for most women, the ladder itself is a different construct? What if for most women, the ultimate fulfillment, the true self-actualization as they experience it, is not found at the apex of individualistic potential, but rather in the absolute, secure, and perpetual satiation of the lower needs? And not just for themselves, but crucially for their offspring, for their future? Let's descend into the darkness of this truth. The physiological needs: food, water, shelter. For a woman, historically, biologically, these were never truly self-sourced. They were provided, secured by a male. The most crucial physiological need, reproduction, survival of the species, depends on this male provision. And so, the female psyche, honed over millennia, is not primarily focused on hunting for its own food, but on selecting the most capable hunter. Not on building its own shelter, but on attracting the most stable provider. This isn't a judgment. It is a cold, hard biological fact. It's the root of her survival strategy. And then, safety needs. Security, stability, protection. Again, these are not primarily self-generated for most women. They are conferred. They are evaluated. A woman assesses a man's ability to provide safety, not just physically, but emotionally, financially. Her sense of security isn't necessarily rooted in her own ability to defend herself in a dark alley, but in the presence of a man capable of doing so. Her financial security is often tied to the consistency and level of a man's provision. This isn't about individual capacity. It's about strategic reliance. It's about leveraging her innate value as a mate to secure these fundamental layers of the pyramid. Now, we ascend to belonging and love needs. This is where most men get lost. You think you're offering love, true, unconditional love. You think you're offering belonging, a sense of deep connection, and you are. But for women, love, from a biological and psychological standpoint, is not just an emotion. It is a confirmation. It is a signal. It confirms that the male is willing to commit resources, to provide security, to remain present. It confirms his selection, his investment. The feeling of love, for many women, is inextricably linked to the reliable fulfillment of those lower needs. It's a feedback loop. If the man provides, if he secures, if he protects, then the feelings of love and belonging are natural, often genuine consequences. But if those lower needs are threatened, if his capacity to provide or protect wavers, then the love can often recede or become conditional because her fundamental imperative for survival and security is being challenged. And this is the crux of the problem. Because men, you are conditioned to believe that love is the source of fulfillment. You're told that if you just love her enough, if you just express enough affection, she will be whole. But for her, love is often a response to a securely built foundation, not the foundation itself. And if that foundation is shaky, or if she instinctively feels she could secure a better foundation elsewhere, that unfulfillment, that sense of a missing piece, will persist. Then we hit esteem needs. Self-esteem, respect from others, achievement. For men, this often means conquering external challenges, building empires, mastering skills, achieving recognition through direct, tangible results. For women, while they are absolutely capable of achieving these things, their esteem is also, and often primarily, deeply rooted in social validation, in being desired, in being valued by others, particularly high-status males, in their appearance, in their social standing, in the perceived quality of their mate. Her self-worth is, for many, a reflection in the eyes of others, and particularly in the eyes of the man who chose her and the men who still desire her. And this leads us to Maslow's apex, self-actualization, the dark truth, the one that is almost a whisper in the annals of psychology when it comes to women, is that for a significant portion of female psychology, true, pure, self-actualization, the kind that detaches from external validation, from social standing, from partner status, from the secure provision of a mate, is not only rare, but in many cases, counterintuitive to their deepest programming. You see, a man's self-actualization often involves radical individuation, a breaking away from the herd, a forging of one's own path, a singular vision that might require immense personal sacrifice, even loneliness. It's about becoming a master of your own internal universe, pursuing a purpose that transcends immediate gratification or external approval. It's about being true to an internal compass, even if it leads you away from comfort, away from security, away from others. But for women, their historical, biological imperative, their very design, is rooted in connection, in community, in securing the best possible resources for survival and procreation, and these are almost always external. Their drive is often to optimize their position within the social hierarchy, to secure the best possible male investment. And this drive, this deep ancient programming, means that the search for more, for better, for optimal security and status becomes a perpetual state. This isn't a flaw in women. It's a strategy, a highly successful one, and it manifests as a constant, underlying current of unfulfillment from a man's perspective. Because you're trying to fill a cup that isn't empty. It's a funnel. A funnel designed to perpetually seek out more, to perpetually optimize, to perpetually secure. If a woman were truly, deeply, self-actualized in the masculine sense, settled content, detached from external validation, unconcerned with status or social positioning, she would, from a purely evolutionary standpoint, be less driven to optimize her mate selection, less driven to ensure the highest possible provision for her offspring. And that, Maslow's dark truth implies, is a counter-survival strategy. So, when Maslow speaks of self-actualization being rare, for women, it is rare for a deeply practical, deeply rooted reason. Their peak experience, their deepest sense of fulfillment, often comes not from solitary introspection and the pursuit of abstract purpose, but from the successful securing of an optimal mate who provides absolute security, abundant resources, and high status. And the fear, the primal fear, that this optimal state could be lost, or that a better state could be achieved, leads to a perpetual, underlying sense of unfulfillment relative to absolute contentment. She is always, unconsciously, assessing, always seeking, always optimizing. This is the psychological abyss you stare into. You, the man, are trying to bring her to the apex of Maslow's pyramid to help her find inner peace and purpose independent of you, independent of external validation. But her internal compass, her deep evolutionary programming, is often pulling her back to the secure, optimized base. Her unfulfillment isn't a problem for you to solve. It's a natural state of being that drives her behavior, that drives her choices, that drives her relentless, often unconscious, search for the next optimal step. Think of it like this. You are a fixed point, trying to anchor a ship that is designed to sail perpetually in search of richer shores. Her very definition of richness is tied to external provision, to social status, to the quality of the male resource. And if she ever fully arrived at a state of absolute, internal, self-actualized contentment, where external provision held no sway, where social status was irrelevant, then what would drive her to continue striving? What would drive her to ensure the optimal conditions for her offspring? It's a terrifying thought for men because it means your efforts to complete her are not just futile but fundamentally misunderstanding her very nature. Society, with its blue pill narratives, tells you to chase this illusion. It tells you that if she's unhappy, it's your fault. You're not providing enough. You're not listening enough. You're not romantic enough. It blames you for her unfulfillment. And it tells you that the solution is to drain yourself further, to give more, to sacrifice more, to become more. And you, noble fool that you are, you fall for it. You commit psychological and financial suicide trying to fill a well that is designed to be perpetually refreshed by external streams. You become a psychological puppet, dancing on the strings of her perpetual unconscious striving. This relentless, inherent unfulfillment, seen through Maslow's dark lens, becomes a source of immense power. It is the engine of female hypergamy. It is the reason why women are always scanning, always evaluating, always considering options. Because true, internal self-actualization would mean a cessation of that scan. It would mean being content with the current state, independent of external stimuli, independent of better options. And that, for many, is antithetical to their deepest programming. The man who doesn't understand this truth becomes a perpetual servant. He dedicates his life to a futile quest. He builds his entire identity around the idea of being the man who makes her happy, the man who fulfills her. And when she inevitably remains in that state of subtle discontent, when she still seeks more, he crumbles. His self-worth evaporates. He becomes bitter, resentful, confused. He blames himself, or he blames her. But the truth is, he just misunderstood the game. He didn't understand Maslow's dark theory on female unfulfillment. So, what is the path to awakening for you, the man caught in this cycle? It's to stop trying to be her self-actualization project, to stop believing that her happiness, her internal state, is your responsibility. It is to recognize that her unfulfillment is not a problem to be solved by your provision, but a fundamental aspect of her psychology that drives her pursuit of optimal security and status. Your path, your Maslowian ascent, must be your own. Your self-actualization must be independent. It must be rooted in your purpose, your vision, your internal compass, not in the reflected glory of a woman you can never truly satisfy. When you understand that her unfulfillment is, in a profound and terrifying way, a constant, that it's her very nature, you are liberated. You are no longer responsible for an impossible task. You are no longer chasing a mirage. This isn't about blaming women. It's about understanding nature. It's about understanding the deep-seated psychological mechanisms that have driven humanity for millennia. It's about recognizing that male and female psychologies, while complementary in many ways, have fundamentally different endpoints on Maslow's hierarchy. While a man's journey to self-actualization often involves a solitary ascent, a forging of his own path, a detachment from external validation in pursuit of an internal truth, a woman's journey to her form of peak experience is often deeply intertwined with the successful acquisition and maintenance of high-quality external resources, social status, and a secure mate. Her deepest drives are often satisfied not by the abstract pursuit of personal potential, but by the concrete reality of a secure, optimal environment for herself and her future. And the unfulfillment you observe is simply the engine of that drive. It's the perpetual motion machine of evaluation, of striving, of seeking the next optimal step. It is why you can give her everything, and she will still unconsciously wonder if there's a man who could give her more or better. It's why the thrill of acquisition often fades, leaving that subtle void. Because the process itself, the seeking, is often the fulfillment in its truest, most primal sense. This truth is terrifyingly lonely. It means letting go of the comforting fantasy that you can fix her, that you can be her sole source of internal peace. It means accepting that her unfulfillment is not a reflection of your inadequacies, but a reflection of her deepest, most ancient programming. And in that acceptance, in that brutal clarity, lies your liberation. Stop trying to fill her void. Start filling your own. Start building your hierarchy. Focus on your physiological needs, your safety, your belonging, with men who understand these truths, your esteem, and ultimately, your self-actualization. And when you do that, when you stop orienting your entire life around the impossible task of fulfilling a woman who is wired to be perpetually optimizing, you become truly attractive. Not because you're trying to fulfill her, but because you are fulfilled in yourself. You become a man who understands the game, who doesn't play by its deceptive rules, but who dictates his own. This knowledge, this uncomfortable truth, is a shield. It protects you from the emotional drain, from the financial ruin, from the psychological despair that comes from trying to do the impossible. It frees you to pursue your own purpose, to build your own legacy, to become the man you were meant to be, independent of any woman's approval or perceived state of fulfillment. If this message resonated with you, if you felt that chill of recognition, that uncomfortable truth about Maslow's dark theory on female unfulfillment, do not just scroll away. This isn't just a video, it's a call to arms. Like this video, share it with other men who are lost, confused, and trying to fill a bottomless well, and subscribe to this channel, because here, and only here, will you find more of the brutal truths about gender dynamics, male psychology, and relationships that society is desperately trying to keep hidden from you. Join us. Wake up. The time for illusion is over. The time for truth is now.